If there's an event that occurs on a regular basis that celebrates the Second Amendment, it would have to be your local gun shows. The one good thing about gun shows, you get to be around a lot of guys, and including women, that are gun enthusiasts, that like to collect, that may be concerned about self-defense, and you can go there and find a lot of different options, whether it be a different firearm, holsters, ammunition, anything you can imagine, magazines, you can usually find it at the gun show. Plus, all kind of military surplus, and just different things that relate to self-defense and to collecting gun-related material. It's been an American tradition for years and years, and as far back as I can remember, I've been going to gun shows and really excited when one comes into town. And the good thing about gun shows typically are the people that are there seem to be friendly. Yes, they're looking, and a lot of times here lately, the shows are so crowded, it's incredible. In fact, we just went to a show in Asheville, North Carolina, and it was so packed that you couldn't even get to a table. And I was huddled right in the middle of the aisle, pressed on all sides. And it was really crazy. And I remember thinking at one point, why in the world am I here? But one of the big reasons I decided to go was to check and see what the pulse was of the gun community and what was available and how the prices were being affected. So the big point of this video is just to let you know, just to give you a status report on some of the things that I've seen out locally at these gun shows and what to expect if you go to one. Now, I do want to encourage you to go to a gun show, even if you're not really planning to buy much, because there are so many different things out there and it shows support to the gun community. A lot of local TV stations come to the gun shows and they see the crowds and they report this back on the general news, which actually helps people to understand that this is a majority of the people that feel this way about our Second Amendment. Now, one of the things I've been really focusing on are magazines, and I'm really concerned that there may be some legislation passed to get magazines limited down to 10 rounds. And so what I've been doing is trying to find decent deals on magazines that are over the 10-round mark. If you have a Beretta 92, you can find surplus mags because, of course, our military uses the Beretta 92. So that's one of the things that I've been able to get. And at one of the gun shows a couple of weeks before, these magazines were going for about $10 a piece. But I ended up purchasing these magazines for $15 a piece. And to be honest with you, I was happy to get them for $15 a piece. So, you know, this is not a super highly inflated price. It's a heck of a lot more than I'd like to pay, but I was really glad to get them. But now, one thing to consider too, and just like with this Beretta magazine, let's say you don't have a Beretta, but if you can get the magazines cheap, it may be smart to get interested in maybe purchasing a Beretta at a later date, going ahead and getting the magazines that you can get and putting them aside. Now, here are a couple of Glock Model 22 standard capacity magazines. These are both 15-round magazines, and I bought these. They were on the used table, and I bought them for $30 a piece. Well, brand new, they're about $28 a piece or so. So I was really happy to get these. Glock mags are great. They last forever. And these go in my Model 23. But one of the things about picking up some mags like this is even if you don't have a Glock and you do want one at a later date, if you could find some magazines like this, you can just put them back. But if you do have a Glock 23 or a Glock 22 or of course a Glock 27, you can use these 40 caliber mags in that same pistol. Now, one key element about 40, and it was this way when Obama was elected the first time when there was a big ammunition scare, is I would walk into Walmart or wherever they had ammo, and I would see 40 caliber, where 9mm, 45, 380 was gone. For some reason, I would always see 40. The other day, I was in the Walmart locally here, and there was about 5 or 6 different brands of 40 caliber, but no 9mm, no 45. You know, if you're looking for ammunition and you want a gun, or you're in the market for a gun, you may want to consider 40 caliber, because ammunition typically is more available than some of the other calibers. Now, why that is, I don't know. It's kind of funny to me, but it is somewhat available, so that may be an option. While all other ammunition may be gone, I can always get 40 caliber. Now, on Gunbroker, I just recently purchased these 4 G17 mags, or Glock 17 9mm mags. I ended up paying about $40 a piece for these mags, and they were used, but to be honest with you, I was glad to get them. And again, I can use these in my Model 26, my Model 19, and of course in my Model 17. And they're 17 in 1. So these are great mags to have. But on that same note, I picked up a couple of fun sticks, which are the 33 round Glock mags. There are a lot of aftermarket mags. Some of them work, some of them don't. I would be very careful with the aftermarket mags. I always buy Glock mags. I don't buy aftermarket mags because I really need my magazines to work. And so I purchased these, and they were $100 a piece. And to be honest with you, that was more than I really wanted to pay. These are typically $59 at most gun shows before all this hype. But again, we may never be able to get these type mags again, and the price will go up if there is a magazine limitation ban. And of course, the old AR-15 mags, similar to these were selling, the ones that were well used, were selling for about $15 a piece. They had some that were Parkerized, that were in packages, they were brand new. They were selling for about $30 a piece. Now, P-mags and any kind of polymer mags, they were nowhere to be found. I couldn't find them. And to be honest, I had heard that Magpul has now reached 1 million mags on back order. 1 million P-mags on back order. These good aluminum mags, they work fine, they work great, and it's better than not being able to get a P-mag or a Tapco mag. So I would definitely highly recommend picking up a few of these magazines. You can always get followers and magazine springs to replace them if you need them. So I highly recommend these bodies. Now I was looking for some G3 mags from H&K, and these are very reasonable. They're aluminum mags. I've got quite a few of these already. Used to on Cheaper Than Dirt, you could get these for about $2 a piece. And at the gun show, they were selling for $5 a piece. So 20 round mags, not a bad deal. And then here's a couple of CZ mags. I bought 6 CZ mags from actually a guy that's one of my viewers here on YouTube. And he got in touch with me and said, hey man, I've got 6 CZ mags if you're interested. You know, he gave me a really good price for them at the time. I think I paid $17 a piece for these. And he had sold his pistol. He had the extra mags. And I was really happy to get him. In fact, my brother has a CZ75 too. So I gave him a couple of those mags, and I kept 4 of them. But this is a great way if you have friends or you have people you know that have extra mags. Sometimes they've sold a pistol and they have a couple of mags laying around. And you might be able to get a good deal on some magazines that way. Now, one thing that's really scarce is .22 ammunition. And why that is, I'm not really positive. And two, I guess part of my philosophy is that if I can't really shoot a lot, because I don't really want to shoot all my ammo up here lately because of the price of ammo and the scarcity of ammo, I've really been glad to get some .22 to be able to keep my practice up for a lot less price. .22 ammunition it's almost impossible to find. So I did find this at the gun show. I paid $36 for this 500 round Aquila. And to be honest with you, I was just happy to get it. Picking up a little .22, if you see .22 ammunition, I would highly recommend you buy it because it will not be around long. I grabbed these at Academy Sports. This is military Buckshot. It just has the real subdued rounds. I really like that. That was one of the things they had at Academy. And to be honest with you, Academy is still getting orders in, and people are buying them. I heard today that they got in a couple of AR-15s at one of our local Academy Sports. People were out there at 7:30 in the morning in line waiting. And the first 2 guys that were there bought 2 AR-15s. They did get a little ammo as well. So, you know, sometimes you can go to these places early and pick up ammunition. I had heard that Walmart is putting out ammunition in the mornings because they're getting daily shipments, but by lunchtime, it's usually gone. So you might want to keep your eye on Walmart. You ask them when they're having their shipments come in, and maybe you can pick up a little ammunition all along the way. So there's stuff out there, guys, at least at this point. And if you go to your gun show, local gun show, check out the different sources of who's hosting them, get a schedule, and you may be able to find some really good deals on some magazines or just the availability of a magazine. Because really, if they do pass a magazine ban, which they've got a couple of bills in Congress right now, if they do pass those bans, this stuff is going to skyrocket in price. Furthermore, you're just not going to be able to find them. Now, if you're not careful, a lot of times you'll go onto gunbroker.com or Guns America or some of these gun websites, and the prices will be extremely inflated. And so a lot of times there's a panic and people buy things. I've seen AR-15s go for $2,500. I bought an AR-15 lower. It was a Palmetto State Armory lower, and I paid $67 before the Sandy Hook shootings. Right after the Sandy Hook shootings, I saw the exact same type, Palmetto State Armory lower, sell for $800. That's as much as a rifle, and a complete AR-15 rifle, was before the shootings. There is some concern that these things may never be available again, and some of that is warranted. But I think one thing about the gun show was when I went, I found that prices weren't as inflated as I had expected. Yeah, they were quite a bit more than what they were before all this hype started. But I was seeing many AR-15s for around the $1,400 range. And typically you see AR-15s around the $1,000 range anyway. So even though it was inflated, the supply and demand is driving these AR-15s up. But because the guys at the gun show are realistic and they want to sell their goods, they're going to have to bring their prices down to sell them. And they were selling AR-15s. Now, if you have a local gun shop in your area, someone that you've built a relationship with, and that's one of the important things about having local gun shops, not buying everything online, but giving your business to a local store, you can get deals a lot of times because you have a relationship with that dealer. Now, one of the things I want you to kind of check out is H.R. 141, which is closing the gun show loophole. Now, this bill was introduced by Carolyn McCarthy, who is a Democrat out of New York. Now, the purpose for this bill is to make sure that every transaction involving a firearm at a gun show goes through a background check and goes through all the different things that you would if you'd have bought it from a dealer. And so while that seems all well and good, typically, I've been to gun shows forever, and most of the guys that are buying, that are selling privately, usually require a driver's license anyway, just to be able to check to make sure that they have an ID on that pistol or that rifle. But the real key to this whole thing is not only the background check, which would be almost impossible to enforce, but there is some wording in here about the Attorney General having to be notified at least 30 days ahead that a show is scheduled, and that each of the vendors is also approved by the Attorney General, and a lot of other things that are really going to choke out any of your gun shows, and it's going to raise the price, it's going to cause a lot of extra paperwork, and really, the way they're doing it, they could just close out gun shows altogether just because of all the legal mumbo-jumbo. So it's H.R. 141. Now you can go to popvox.com, and it's a great website. These two lobbyists that were in Washington put this together so that they could contact your senators and your congressmen and watch for these bills. And what you do, you can either support or oppose certain bills. In fact, I'll have the information below in the description, and you can just click on that link. And you'll notice, though, that one of the things, it'll show you the results of the polls that are being taken. And typically, it's overwhelmingly pro-gun to the 90+% on almost all the different bills. But this one in particular, this 141, closing the gun show loophole, is something very important that I think we need to hit, and hit pretty hard. Obama has mentioned gun show loophole a number of times. So I think it's one of those buzzwords that needs to be taken care of, and we need to show our opposition to any of this legislation. Now, Main Prepper is the one who brought my attention to popvox.com, and he has some really good videos about this subject. So check out Main Prepper and see what he's got to say about some of the upcoming legislation. It's really important to be ready, because to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Be strong. Be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.